All right, let's dive into FIRE and investing. Seems like everyone wants to be financially independent these days, maybe even retire early.
Yeah, it's definitely become super popular.
Totally. We've got some fascinating sources here, different paths to FIRE, and even living off dividends.
Interesting.
Yeah. But before we get too deep, let's start with the basics. This article on the FIRE movement, lays it all out.
Okay, back to basics.
Right. Saving a lot, investing smart, and living below your means. That's the core, right?
Absolutely. It's about making your money work for you, not the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. But I was really struck by all the different approaches to FIRE.
Oh, yeah, for sure. One size doesn't fit all, does it?
Not at all. Take lean FIRE minimalism, lower expenses.
Yeah, Lean Fire, it's all about being intentional, right? You prioritize what truly matters and cut back on the rest.
Makes sense. And then you have fat FIRE, a more comfortable retirement, higher expenses.
Right, Fat Fire, you might need to work a bit longer, save a bit more.
Makes sense. So finding the right FIRE path, it's really about tailoring it to your life, your goals.
I like that, tailoring it. It's like building a custom suit, making sure it fits perfectly.
Exactly. And Coast FIRE, have you heard much about that?
Post Fire, yeah, I've come across it.
It seems like you reach a savings point and then basically let your investments do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, you kind of put your finances on autopilot and let compounding do its thing.
It's like reaching that point where you can relax a bit, knowing your retirement's on track.
Pretty compelling.
Absolutely. But let's switch gears for a sec. This next source, it's all about building wealth with dividend income. That really piqued my curiosity. What makes that different?
Well, instead of selling your assets to fund retirement, you're living off the income those assets generate.
So like instead of selling your house to pay the bills, you're renting it out for income.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And one of the big advantages is you keep your principal intact and it can keep growing.
That's reassuring, right? And since dividends often rise with inflation,
Yeah, you've got some built-in protection against rising costs.
it's like building a financial fortress, weathering any storm.
Love the imagery. But building that fortress, you need strong materials. Choosing those dividend stocks, you got to be careful.
It's not just about chasing the highest yield, right?
Exactly. It's got to be sustainable. You need to look at the company's track record, their financials.
So you really need to do your research. Make sure those dividends are reliable.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This approach, it takes a lot of research and careful selection.
Makes sense. Building wealth in a whole new way. Less about quick gains and more about creating a sustainable income stream.
Absolutely. It's a long game.
So how do you actually start building a dividend portfolio? Where do you even begin?
Well, first you got to figure out how much income you need from those dividends. Like, what are your yearly expenses?
Okay, so let's say, just for example, you need around $50,000 a year.
Right. And then you assume let's say, a conservative average dividend yield, maybe 3%.
3%, okay.
Yeah. So to get that $50,000, you'd need a portfolio of, well, it's a big chunk of change, like $1.67 million.
Wow, that is significant.
It is. It's a long-term game, you know? You're not getting rich quick with this.
Definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
So what kinds of assets would you actually put in this dividend portfolio?
Well, you've got your classic dividend-paying stocks, right? Think established companies, the ones with a history of paying dividends consistently.
Okay, so like big companies everyone knows.
Yeah, often those. You could look at sectors like consumer staples, things people always need, or utilities. They're known for being pretty stable. Those are good for reliable dividends.
Reliable, that's key.
Definitely. Then you've got REITs, real estate investment trusts.
REITs, okay.
Yeah, so these companies own and operate properties that generate income, like apartment buildings or shopping malls.
Interesting.
And they have to distribute a lot of their profits as dividends. It's like a requirement.
Oh, I see. So you're basically getting a cut of the rent they collect.
Exactly. And then, of course, you got your dividend ETFs.
ETFs, those are like baskets of different stocks, right?
Yeah, that's it. So with a dividend ETF, you get instant diversification. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Makes sense. So it sounds like you're building a diversified portfolio, a mix of all these different types of assets.
You got it. Each one has its own risk and reward, and got to find the right balance.
So this pro-capitalist frugality idea, it sounds kind of contradictory, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher at first.
How can you be pro-capitalism, in frugal?
Well, this source we have, it presents a really interesting perspective. It's not about rejecting capitalism. It's more about understanding how it works and using that to your advantage.
So like instead of just buying whatever, you're being more deliberate.
Exactly. It's like studying consumerism almost.
Study consumerism.
Yeah, you see how companies try to influence you, how trends come and go, you know? You're learning the game.
Okay, interesting.
And by doing that, you can make smarter choices.
Hmm?
Spend on what matters, avoid the impulse buys.
So you're playing the system, basically.
You could say that. It's about leveraging your knowledge to build wealth.
Okay, so how does that make you pro-capitalist, though?
Because you're using those principles of capitalism to your advantage. You're investing, you're building wealth, right?
Right, right. It's about playing the long game, thinking ahead.
Exactly. Pro-capitalist frugality, it's all about the long view.
So instead of that instant gratification, you're delaying it,
Yeah,
investing in your future.
that's the idea. You're working towards a life where work is a choice, not a necessity.
That is a powerful concept. But this takes a lot of discipline, wouldn't you say?
It does, but this isn't about depriving yourself.
Okay, good. Because that doesn't sound very fun.
No, not at all. It's more about shifting your focus,
Hmm.
right? Maybe instead of buying stuff, you invest in experiences, relationships.
Experiences over possessions, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, finding joy in things that money can't really buy.
So it's all about balance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Enjoying life now, but also making sure you have a secure future, finding that sweet spot.
That makes sense. So pro-capitalist frugality, it's not about being cheap. It's about making smart choices.
Right on. It's about being intentional with your money, understanding how the market works, and using that knowledge to build a good life.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, huh? Different ways to think about financial independence.
We have FIRE, dividends, even that pro-capitalist frugality thing. Definitely some food for thought.
Definitely. It seems like it all comes back to wanting more control, more freedom.
It does, doesn't it? That desire to design a life where work is optional.
Yeah, whether it's early retirement, chasing passions, or just that peace of mind, financial security is a big deal for people.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is there's no one right way to get there.
That's true. It's all about finding the right path for you, your values, your risk tolerance, all of that.
It's like having a whole toolbox full of strategies. You just got to pick the right tools for the job.
I like that analogy. So before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about. What really resonated with you today?
Yeah, good question.
Was it the FIRE movement, saving aggressively to retire early?
Hmm.
Or maybe the idea of building that passive income stream with dividends?
Or maybe that pro-capitalist frugality, really understanding how to work within this system.
Yeah, exactly. Think about how these ideas could fit into your own life, your goals.
Your vision for the future. Remember, even small steps can lead to big changes.
It all starts with taking control and building the future you want. So keep learning, keep exploring, and until next time, keep striving for that financial freedom.